I'm wondering if you could help the trade caravan fight off the bandits, and then be like, "Cool, we helped you out. Now you give us some money,
Here's the
or we'll attack you ourselves."
I got news for you, Alex, is that any trade caravans you come across, you can actually choose to attack them.
Oh,
Alex, we have a lot of other things that we could be talking about right now, but we're not going to do that because I need to talk to you about a game.
okay.
Sorry. I know you were really excited to talk about a variety of different topics, but
Yeah, my taxes.
no, I didn't want to talk about taxes.
Yeah.
That's a different show. You can that's H&R Block Knockdown. That's Block Down. Total H&R Block Down.
Also, don't use H&R Block. This has been financial advice from Alex.
I wanted to talk to you about a game. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about a game is because I started playing it at the beginning of the week, and I can't stop playing it, and I wanted to discuss it. And it's called Wartales. You are probably not familiar with this game at all.
I've heard of it. I think I've seen it come up on Steam a few times, and I have not clicked on it.
Okay, good. Well, then I get to talk to you a little bit about it and why it kind of surprised me. So, the idea of Wartales is you basically have almost a CRPG kind of setting for this. You know, it's a top-down perspective where you have a crew of adventurers and you're going off on quests, and you're gaining levels, gaining new skills, and all of that. I would say that it's a little bit like if you took maybe like the Baldur's Gate kind of aspects of it, when it's like, a storytelling kind of thing, but more or less, turn-based combat and all of that set in kind of a fantasy world.
So the CRPG?
Like a CRPG, yeah. Meshed with a little bit more of like XCOM in terms of outfitting your troops, having different like lines of skills that go through your levels that you can choose between as tech trees for different classes. It's a little bit like that. But I think what's so interesting about this is that it doesn't really make any allusions to being like the heroes of fate that are going to go and, take on the big bad evil thing, or that it's a fantasy world writ large, although it has some fantasy elements. Basically, the way it starts out is it says, okay, you're going to create an adventure party. There's a host of different kinds of character classes, and there's even a profession that each one of them can take on. So, like, things like thieves, or bards, or woodcutters, miners, stuff like that. You have profession levels, similar to, I guess, like, what was it, Final Fantasy X2? Or some of the Final Fantasy had jobs that they could take
job
on.
class.
Yeah. These help your overall stats, but they're also specific so that you can go and mine for stuff, or, do any of those things, fishing, etc.
Right.
You start with these 4 characters, and they say, yeah, outfit them however you want, and choose their backstory. Who are they? Like, are they a bunch of students that got together, like scholar students? Did they grow up in a small town together? How do they really know each other? You kind of choose their backstory, how they all originated and everything. And then they basically set you down in this world and say, all right, you are now venturing out into this medieval landscape with a lot of different provinces and everything, and they've all got their individual conflicts that are going on. The first one has to deal with, like, a refugee crisis that's going on, and farmers that aren't sure about, like, what they want to do, and so you have to kind of rectify different things there. But that there isn't really a grand plan for any of you. You have to figure that out. After you do that, though, it kind of opens up to where it becomes very ambiguous as to what kind of characters you want to be. And the reason I say this, the moment I realized that this was something different, was I came across a skirmish that was on the road. And it's these bandits. And the bandits are attacking a trade caravan, right? And I go up to it and it's like, oh, I better see what this is all about. And I go up, and there's a little screen and they're like showing the conflict that's going on between them. And then they ask me a question. Am I going to help the bandits attack the trade caravan? Or am I going to help the trade caravan fight off the bandits? And they give you like a few, like what the rewards are going to be, and they differ a little bit, but they don't really make a judgment on you about like what you want to do.
Okay.
And at that point I was like, oh, this is very interesting how they're framing this world, that you can steal and you can get wanted levels and deal with the incursion of other characters, but you also have the ability to fence some of the gear. There are even rewards for doing so. You could help all of the refugees, or you could help the farmers. You could help the establishment folks, the Brotherhood that's out there. Or you could help the people that are trying to take them down. There is no morality associated with it, essentially. They're not saying you're good guys or bad guys by doing any of that.
I'm wondering if you could help the trade caravan fight off the bandits, and then be like, cool, we helped you out. Now you give us some money. Or we'll attack you ourselves.
I got news for you, Alex, is that any trade caravans you come across, you can actually choose to attack them.
Oh.
And take take them out. You can attack trade caravans, you can attack the guards that are patrolling the roads if you wanted to. You could steal everything from people. Yeah.
I feel like you should play this game and sit there and be like, I wonder if I can make our crew just like this notorious band of caravan killers.
Yeah. Well, the options are there. Obviously, there's going to be cause and effect in terms of how everybody views you, because suspicion is going to lead to the guards coming and accosting you and saying you got to turn over your goods, you got to pay for your crimes, you got to do all of this. But if you think you can handle that, you could keep trying to do that. There are mission boards where different characters will ask you for different things, but it does get into that territory where you'll get a mission and you're kind of like, I don't even know what side I'm supposed to be taking in this, or like they don't even necessarily want to make it very clear that it's just like, this is the good side and this is the bad side. You know,
yeah, this sounds very ambiguous.
It's very ambiguous, and some of those you could see like, well, I can see the point that they're trying to make, or they're trying to make, and it will help advance the story regardless until you get to the end of that story mission, which is what I did for the first region, where I was trying to help the refugees because there was, this militant organization that was trying to keep them out. But the refugees had taken over a small, abandoned fort, and were trying to put up settlements. And so you can kind of understand where, there's people that are frightened, and they don't know if, people are stealing from them. And then at the other hand, there are people that are like the refugees, and they're trying to come in and trying to settle so that they have food, so that they can create settlements too. And that comes to a head where you have to deal with whether you're going to help the regional governor of this area maintain her post, or if you're going to help the refugees, liberate the province, essentially, from that rule. And you can make that choice. It resolves either way, and you'll complete that area and get a bonus for completing the area. But you get to do either one of those. Very, very interesting how it frames it. It's done in sort of real time, but it's turn-based combat, so you get into the arenas if you accost any of the wilderness or anything like that out in the woods. The thing I think is really interesting is you have that team of 4. You start off with this team of 4 and one horse, so that you have more storage space. Throughout the course of the game, though, you get to add more horses if you want, and you can also hire more people, either through taverns, jails. You can free people from jail and have them work for you.
There you go.
Or
your criminal empire starts here.
Exactly. Or, this is cool, If you're fighting animals in the woods, you might have the ability, if you have the right materials, to try capturing animals like boars, wolves, or even bears.
There you go. Bear army.
And tame them. I have a bear.
Nice.
That works for me now. And it's
works.
Great. Yeah, works. He gets fed really well. Also, my bear has the trait of vegetarian, so I have to feed him greens.
Lame.
Here's the thing. So, at first you're thinking, oh, well, I want as big a crew as I possibly can. But in order to hire them, you need to have a certain amount of valor to spend on it, like reputation, and you have to have money. You have to have money.
What about for the animals?
You don't need money to pay them. They don't have a salary. But the animals do consume more food. So you also have to prepare meals when you're at camp.
Gotcha.
As you're going through the world, you get fatigued. And when you need to set up camp because your crew is fatigued, they're going to ask you, like, what you want to do to feed them and make sure that their needs are met. And so you start to realize that you can have as big a crew as you want. However, you're going to have to pay them, and you're going to have to feed them. And if they're not getting fed and they're not getting paid, there's going to be discontent. They're not going to be happy. You might have ones that leave, or that relationships start breaking down between the different members of the crew. And so you have this balancing act about, like, what do you actually want to do and how big you want this crew to be. And what makes logical sense. But it's that kind of give and take that I really appreciated about it, where you're really thinking logistically about all of these elements. And it's not...
Well, the tactics that go into a tactics game.
Yeah, the tactics that go into a tactics game, but just even from the logistic standpoint of, oh, I gotta keep food on me. I need, like, a cook so I can cook the food, that it has more nutrition value so that they can do that. That I can set up tents, and that I can set up, different stations so that they're happier, so that they can get more points for special skills when they rest. That I have a lookout tower so they don't get ambushed at night, or it's less likely. All of these things that they kind of put into, like, okay, so you're building a crew and they need to survive, but here's the logistics part of it. And it's not a high fantasy sort of game. You don't have, like, magic, as far as I know, but you do have some more mythical creatures that you start to meet. There's, like, ghost animals. There are...
Perfect. I want one of those.
I would like ghost animals, too. I have not been able to figure out how you tame them yet. That's a different thing.
Ghost box.
Ghostbusters. I need
there you go.
Yeah. They need an add-on that just lets me have the, the Ghostbusters blaster. And then I'll...
Yeah, just don't cross the streams.
Don't cross the streams. I gotta make sure that that's, like, a thing. There are... ancient ruins that you can go in, and if you have scholars, you can even find tablets and stuff that you can translate. But there are, creepy critters that are in the temples, and they'll come after you. You need to have torches if you're going to go in. If you run out of torchlight, your entire crew is going to run scared out of the temple and suffer some penalties. They're going to get broken bones. They're going to get fatigued. They're going to get frightened and bump their head. So you got to know about how much light you have. And it's just interesting because a lot of these systems that they put in place about the bonuses you get for completing missions, about the points that you can put into different skill trees, it's not made explicit when you start the game. They don't necessarily even tell you about it. But then they're like, oh, you got a skill point. And then you start to realize, oh, there's a whole range of different things that I can do. There's, like, relationships that happen between the different crew members. And if you accidentally, like, swing wide and hit one of your other crew members, the relationship between them deteriorates. And they don't work as well together afterward. And I was sitting there thinking, like, it's just such an interesting concept of really being able to just take the basic adventure experience and translate it into almost a tabletop sort of game. And the logistics that go into it. It's not necessarily as epic as something like a Baldur's Gate 3, I'm sure, or any of those, but tries to kind of create more of a realistic sort of aspect of what being essentially a mercenary group in this medieval world is going to be like, and what it would take to actually run an army that's going through the landscape. So, real interesting. You even get the ability to eventually build your own, weaponry and armor and stuff like that. Augment it, all of that stuff.
Do you get a base of operations?
Here's the cool thing. So obviously you have like a base camp that's with you, so you can set up for base camp, and you can create new buildings if you have a workbench, so that you can build towers, you can build tents and stuff, and different crew members can get assigned to those if they have the right skills, and it will improve their happiness and everything like that. But additionally, something you can do, and I haven't saved up enough money for it, is that some towns, I've gotten to the second region, so I know that this is possible, will offer you, if you can pay, to put a post in town, which is like a base of operations that you can build out.
Okay.
So that's the next thing for me, is to make sure I have enough money so that I can buy that and still make sure to pay my crew. But then that's the next aspect. It seems like every time you're like going around in this game, it's smart like this. Every time you're going through the game and you're going, oh, okay, I understand the basic combat, I get into one little combat, yeah, okay, cool. Alright, it's easy enough to understand how I hit things and, heal myself if I have the ability, or repair my armor, or stuff like that. Okay, cool. Oh, now I can actually build armor. Oh, and I've gotten some stuff. Oh, now there are skill points because I've built so many items. You get a point into different skill trees. And then before you know it, after you're like, oh, okay, I think I understand how this game works, before you can get bored, something else happens. And like enemies you've never seen before ambush you on the side of the road. You get accosted by guards and they say, hey, we know that you stole some stuff. And now you have to mitigate, like, am I going to attack them? Am I going to pay them off? Can I bribe them? What can I do? You run across different, places. There was a wood mill I ran across one time, and there's like a basement in the windmill that's locked by an ornate key, and I need to have this specific key in order to get into it. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to come back to that. Find a key that I can use for it, and the woman who's at this wood mill is like, there's nothing to see here, this is just a perfectly normal wood mill. You unlock the key, and you go down in there, and there's just like 3 people like chained up as like slaves that they've been keeping there the entire time.
Wow.
And of course, being Wartales, you now have options, because if you wanted to, you could take them prisoner. You could even turn them in if you wanted to. Or you do what I do, and I say, uh-oh, there are people down here, I better go talk to that lady. Well, she's gone. I go to the outer world, the overworld, and she's there with her mercenaries, and they're like, oh, you snuck around in our place. Now, are you gonna like help us? Are you gonna let this go, or are we gonna have to fight for it? Now I gotta make another choice. So I gotta fight them off so that I can free the enslaved people, so that I can move on, so that I can rectify this thing. But every single time they like keep presenting you with these scenarios in the overworld that are just really interesting, and they won't tell you about some of it. There's cliff faces that are too steep for you to climb up, and I kept going, oh, that's really annoying, because now I got to do this long loop around, and then I got to come back. Until I realized, wait, you can make pitons like the pitons with the rope and everything. Well, why can I make those? And I right-click on them at one point when I'm on near a cliff face. Oh, you can set them down on top of cliff faces so that you can get up and down from mountains once you've explored on the upper part. Like, just these things that you discover.
A Souls-like.
It's like a Souls-like, yeah! You discover this stuff.
Click down the ladder.
But it's like you discover this stuff without realizing it, and go, oh, that's a thing I never knew you could do. So it's this constant sense of discovery, not just in the landscape itself, but of all these mechanics that they put into the game that you didn't even realize you could do in the first place, because they didn't really hold your hand at all at the beginning. And so it's this constant sense of discovery, and by the time you've discovered enough of it, you're like so familiar with the basic systems that you're like, oh, cool, I'm gonna take on these 3 missions, and I've now learned how to negotiate my prices. I'm gonna go off and take care of some bandit camps and make some bank. And now I know I need to make this much money, and oh, now I have to build a post for myself, and I can build an encampment in this town, and on and on and on. So it's a really interesting thing that it does that I haven't seen a lot of other games do, where it can kind of both drip feed you the exploration of the world where you're learning more about it, but also the mechanics of the game itself drip feed itself in without them really telling you about any of it at all. There might be systems in this game I don't even know about, that I haven't even come across yet, and one day I'll be like, huh, I wonder what this is, and just come across it one day. So, yeah, really impressive. Like, the characters, like, from just a, production value, the characters are all voice acted. They're all voice acted. They have music, like actual music scores. The graphics are pretty nice. The maps look like almost like world maps. If you were looking at topographical maps, they look like that. Some technical aspects that are not ideal, like tracking missions and stuff like that. But overall, just really engaging. More so than I really thought when I picked up the game. And very, very happy about it. Better experience than I've had with some of the other recent games that have come out. But I wanted to tell you about that, because I thought that the way that they framed the game is just incredibly engaging. I'm now up to, I think 12 people, and I have a bear and a couple horses.
A couple more bears.
I need more bears. They eat so much, though. The problem is you gotta feed them so much.
Yep.
That's the problem. I gotta have, entire banquet meals that I make. It's like level 3 cooking so that I can feed the freaking bear and the horses. So that's the thing. You want to be careful about that. Like, your resource management is part of it. It's really good in how it presents itself in all of those different aspects. I like the ambiguity of not really telling you, these are the good folks, these are the bad folks. It's gray area all around the game of who you're supposed to be working for. There aren't, big bad guys or really good guys. They've all got problems, and you gotta figure out who you'd rather work for, and as you try to solve the problems of each individual region. But it's not like the big world-ending sort of thing where you have to deal with them. So anyway... Okay, I'm done talking about Wartales. Okay, cool. I'm done talking about Wartales. If anyone out there has actually played Wartales, though, let me know in the comments down below. And what did you think of it? And do you like the systems that they put into place? And Alex can tell me at some point if he thinks that sounds like an interesting idea.
It sounds interesting. I might check it out on Steam, put it on a wish list. Who knows?
Put it on a wish list. Yeah, You might be able to figure out if you like it or not before the 2-hour mark. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, let us know. Comments down below.